All right, everybody. So I think we're ready to start. My name is Connor, and this is Chris. We're with Metal Inside Me. We're a
Hello.
podcast, YouTube channel, do interviews with bands, and we are absolutely stoked to be talking to you guys today.
Yeah.
Hell
Well,
yeah,
thanks
we're
for having
stoked.
us, man. This is super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming down to our level. Talk to us for a minute.
I don't know about that.
So I guess we'll start off with introductions, you guys. We obviously know Mark is the vocalist. So Nico, can you tell us your role in the band?
Yeah, sure. I'm not as cool as Mark. I just play guitar and I just write the music and help kind of run the band on the back end.
Awesome.
All right.
What he's not saying is that he's essentially the brain of the band. Like, no, it's true. Like I sing and yell, but he's like, all right, I'm going to do the entire rhythm section. All right, I'm going to handle like all our financial reports. So Nico is the brain.
Okay, I'll take that. Thanks, Mark. I'm grateful for that.
So, guys, how did Kardashev come to exist?
Nico, you got
Well-
to take this one because it starts with a different band.
It does start with a different band. I was in a local band playing here in Tempe, Arizona for about 3 or 4 years. And I met Mark in college in 2009. And I moved back home pretty soon after because I did not like college and did the music thing. And Mark confided in me when we were in college that he really wanted to be a singer in a band or a screamer. Like he wanted to be in a band like Bring Me the Horizon, if I remember correctly. And so essentially I said, you know what, forget this band. I want to make a new band. And I called up Mark and I said, hey, do you want to scream in my band? He's like, yeah, I definitely want to do that.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. And we just kept writing music since then.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So me and Chris have both listened to the new EP, The Bearing of Shadows, and we were very impressed. Very impressed.
Thank you.
Chris, do you want to kick us off with the first question about the EP?
Yeah. So, I mean, and this is not limited specifically to this EP, but of course we have the EP in mind. And we just wanted to ask you about your songwriting process. A lot of the songs seem to be very patiently constructed and very well put together. So if you guys could just talk about how you approach songwriting.
Yeah, I can start that, and then Mark will finish it there because that's just pretty much the structure of our song.
That's how it goes. Yeah,
So I essentially just express myself through my guitar in front of a recording setup. It just so happens. And I just write what I think sounds good, sounds fun. Oftentimes people I think are creative for their own outlet. They're not trying to, they don't have like this end goal of like, I'm going to put this on records at FYE, right? I don't think that's kind of where they start, at least not where we start. We just want to write music. And so I'll write a bunch of riffs and throw them into the same, like they're just consecutive riffs. There's no rhyme or reason about it. It's not like I wrote a song. I just wrote riffs. And then I just kind of copy paste a bunch of MIDI drums all over the place to make it listenable. And then I put it in Google Drive and Mark listens to it when he's in his car or when he's pooping or got nothing better to do. And and Mark, take it from there, dude.
So, yeah. Well, I mean, I'd be lying if I'd say it's never happened. But no, yeah. So essentially, like, yeah, Nico starts us out with just a bunch of ideas, with a bunch of rhythm, and then I actually come. Usually after that comes bass and then drums, and that's just kind of been fate, as fate has decided it to be. But I actually hold off. I hold off for a very, very, very long time. And the reason is because, I don't know, for me, a lot of the ways that I come up with like my melodies and my concepts is I'm just kind of pacing around, listening to the music, and then I just sort of hum along to whatever sounds good. Or if like I know it's going to be a screaming song, I do like the quintessential like whisper scream. Like I'm walking around my room and I'm like, the thing that we've all done. But I come late into the game because maybe this is me being a little like superstitious isn't the word, but I feel like I can give a more honest my part is more honest if the song is more finished. And you know, I try to involve myself in the other pieces as well. So I'm not just being the vocalist who's like, talk to me when the song's done, you know?
No, he doesn't do that.
I don't want to do that, but yeah, you know, it's and I just do whatever sounds right in my head. That's actually the whole reason that Kardashev started singing. We didn't sing until the Almanac, but Nico wrote Between Sea and Sky, and I was like trying to come up with screaming melodies over the beginning, and I was just like, I just can't do it. And I was like, I remember my thought being like, God damn it. All right.
You have to learn how to sing now.
Well, I already knew how to sing really well. I just didn't have any desire to do it in a metal setting.
That's fair.
And so I was like, well, all right. And so then that's how that happened. Yeah, that's my long-winded answer for you. I have a lot of those. So
very long-winded.
I'm a long-winded guy. I apologize to no one. Next question. Sorry.
The guy.
Right. So just to get up on a sidetrack for a second, Mark, you teach vocals now. So how did you come to be a vocalist? How did you learn to sing yourself?
That's a great question. So I was raised in kind of like I wouldn't say like a super musical family, but a musical family nonetheless. So my mom and dad, they played music around the house all the time. And when I say played music, I don't mean they had it on like the radio. Like my dad would sit with his guitar and my mom would sing along. And that was a very common thing for like our like Saturday and Sunday afternoons. Because growing up, we actually went for a amount of time where we didn't have a TV. I didn't have any video games, and it was awesome. I hated it at the time, but now I look back and I'm like, damn, like I actually talked to my family. That was wonderful.
So simple.
You know, but it was just really common, you know? And so my mom had training. She'd had training in singing. And so she just kind of would give me pointers and tips. And then that led me to be in choirs, in like, you know, church choirs mostly, or school choirs. And, you know, so I got training there. I never went and got like, you know, like my classical singing degree, although that's an awesome thing to have. But I was basically on and off in choirs and singing in front of people, again, mostly in like a church or school setting for most of my childhood. And then I just kind of got interested in screaming because I was like, oh, you can do that? Like that's wild. How do you, and it was more out of curiosity than anything. But yeah, and then it snowballed from there. I've always also been very fascinated with the voice itself, not just with screaming and singing, but with speaking too. So I went to school for speech therapy, and it was a bummer because I got super sick and wasn't able to finish. But I learned so much about just the anatomy of the voice, how our voice exists, how the voice is very like so much more than just your vocal folds. And I bring a lot of that into my teaching as well. So it's kind of like been a lifelong thing, but the screaming just in the past 10-ish years or so.
Got it. Connor?
Yeah. So I guess we want to ask a little bit about lyrics in this newest EP.
Sure.
Was there a unified concept, you would say?
I think this was the first album where we had a unified concept that was like meant to be more impactful. Yeah, so essentially this is the first time we've really gotten very, very like I would say predominantly literal in our lyrics. You know, Kardashev kind of has two things going on prior to the Bearing of Shadows, and one is what we call like the Kardashev mythos, which is like the sci-fi story. Because back when we got started, space metal was like the thing. You know, everybody was like a band. We sang about space, man, and I was totally into it. And then the other thing that Kardashev has going on, which is like Iota and Peripety, is just basically me being like, what even is life? Nothing makes sense, you know, because every artist has to have those like existential moments where they're like, I'm an idiot and I don't know anything. That's how I feel most of the time. But with The Bearing of Shadows, it talks about like really very real world situations, all very tragic situations. There's no like in our album, Nico wrote the insert, but in our album, Nico, maybe you can remember the wording, but it says like, you know, there's no sci-fi, there's no,
oh yeah, it just goes on to say that pain is just a universal emotion that we all have the ability to empathize with, whether someone's experienced it or not. You can put yourself in their shoes to some degree.
Exactly. Yeah. And the whole goal with that was like, you know, it seems like, and this has been part of the human condition for a very long time. It's nothing necessarily new, but it doesn't mean we're not experiencing it. But it seems like people these days are very, very hard to find commonalities, and there's more focus on like maybe the 2 ways that we're different versus like the hundreds of ways we're the same. And so I kind of built on the idea that, and it's not my idea, I heard it from somewhere else, but I built on the idea that everybody can agree that pain sucks, right? Like everybody can agree that stepping on a Lego is no good. And so it was just like, you know, if I can get 2 people who would normally hate each other to listen to a song and feel the same emotion, that's pretty badass. And so it's, everybody thinks different things are funny or different things are pretty or different things are happy versus not happy, but everybody can agree like a song about like a kid being abandoned out in the snow, you got to be pretty heartless to not think that's sad. Maybe you won't feel like actual sadness, but like we can all agree that that's a sad thing. So that was kind of like the goal. Real world stories of very tragic events that anybody could relate to, whether or not personally, but you know, they could see that it was a tragic event. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to say, and I said this a little bit in the album review, but your album, or the EP rather, made me realize how little I actually experience sadness in metal, and sort of created a delineation between the sort of roiling anger that I get by listening to, say, Alex Terrible, and something that's just so much more somber. And so, musically speaking, since you have achieved something that is so much more somber and slow burning, I'm interested what your musical influences were going into this, and they may be the same as your whole discography.
Nico?
Yeah, you know, I don't think that they're the same for our discography. You're definitely inspired by the things that are kind of going on around you and the things that you bring with you. For instance, there could be an album that you like from 10 years ago, but you might listen to it every 6 months. It's just because it's like an old trusty album that you just enjoy thoroughly. And so I think some of those get carried along, but at the same time, influences change as you find new inspiration, a new muse. So for this album in particular, we focused on, well, we didn't focus. We just kind of drew inspiration from what we were discovering at the time and what we hadn't explored yet. We kind of moved from technical to sort of breakdowns, and then eventually into like more strumming chords. And this is from a rhythm section, of course. And then eventually like soaring leads. And so through the discovery of these things, they were influenced by us finding new bands and sharing them with one another, or having fans say, hey, you guys remind me of this band. And so we check it out and we're like, oh shit, that's actually way cooler than us. And we like it. But with this album in particular, we really enjoy a German band called Bohren and der Club of Gore. They have an album called Sunset Mission. Yeah. We play horror board games sometimes and put that album on because it's the perfect mood. And they have really cool like smoky jazz sections that are at like 50 BPM. It's just the slowest thing you've ever heard. And you're just like, oh my God, it's amazing. Yeah. We like a lot of that. Post metal, actually like post black gaze, I guess, or whatever it's called, blah, 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 add your genre. But like Alcest, Lantelos, which shared a singer for a while there. They're a big influence. Mark, can you think of anything else?
Yeah, so when we first started writing it, we were listening to Halatar as well.
Oh my God, Halatar, how'd I forget?
Yeah, specifically a song called, I think the song is called My Mistake. And that's right. And that's an interesting song as well. It's been a little while since I read up on it, but that's a song about a tragic event too. And they're very doom inspired, and I think that doom metal I don't listen to a lot of doom metal, but I think that it may be a very sad genre. But I know that the song is in some way related to his girlfriend passing away. And that's a rough subject. It's a rough subject. So maybe that had some influence as well. And then in the smoky section of the first track, there's a little bit of Chris Isaak, a little bit of Wicked Games.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, there's a little bit of that that you can hear, but that was a minor influence for sure. Although, like, that song is just too good.
It's so good, though. Such a good song.
Game we play.
So tell us a little bit about Kardashev performing live. How long have you guys been performing live? What is the Arizona scene like?
Short answer to what is the Arizona scene like? I have no idea.
I couldn't tell you.
I couldn't tell you, man. Oh goodness, Nico, you want to take that one too?
Yeah, sure. When I started Kardashev, we wanted to play shows live, but I think in our total 8-year tenure at this point, maybe we've played 10.
Less than 20 for sure.
Oh, for sure. 4 of those were on tour. One of them was in England for a festival, and the rest were just like a couple of local shows where our buddies were putting it on and they needed like openers or a co-headliner or something. And they just invited us because we were all friends, and they're like, you guys should play more shows. Come to our show. We're like, all right, sure. Turns out that band that was putting on a lot of those shows, we now have their bass player in the band. So that's how long we've been buddies. You know, we're all just kind of hanging out in the same group. But I couldn't tell you what the scene is like, especially with the pandemic. I imagine that this scene is, if it's not dead, it's now rolling over in its grave dead even further. You know, it's digging more grave while it's in there. So.
I hope not, but it could be.
Yeah.
It could be. Yeah. Well, Nico, are you done? I don't want to cut you off.
Oh, appreciate that. No, I'm done, man. What do you got?
Yeah, I think that, you know, I can say that I can't speak, you know, for you, Nico, or previous members of the band, but I think part of the way that I really sort of started stepping away from playing shows is that they were 90% like bad vibes. Like the 30 minutes I was on stage were amazing, and if we got 45 minutes, even better. Like there were times, y'all, where my foot would hit the stage. I would go into some like almost like a trance state where I was like not even really aware what it was just light and sound and amazing feelings. And then when the show was done, I'd be like, oh, well, I hope I did well. But everything surrounding it was just awful. It was just awful. If I'm being honest, like imagine this scenario. Hey guys, you've got full-time jobs and you're probably not going to make a lot of money. We need you to sell 100 tickets because everybody has 100 friends, right? And I'm like, are you insulting me? Because I don't.
Yeah.
And then you drive all across the city, bugging your friends. Your friends are getting tired of you. And then they're like, yeah, you're going to play at 8. And you tell your friends you're going to play at 8. They should come to the whole show and support the scene, but let's be real. Like these people don't even like metal in the first place. Then they change your time slot. And there's such bad reception there that you can't text everybody and let them know. So you've already played, and then all your friends show up, and you're and you're just spending the rest of the time you're there apologizing. That was almost every show, and I was just like, why am I doing this? Like, I want to play music because it makes me feel good, and this ain't making me feel good. And so, you know, again, I can't speak for Nico, but I think that level of frustration, and I was one of the last ones to give up on the whole, like, let's play live every weekend thing. I was one of the last people to move away from it, but that was a big part of it for me. And honestly, I have no desire to go back to that probably ever in my life because it was miserable.
You know, and to be fair, I was coming off of a band who was doing that almost twice a month. Like we were playing shows every other Saturday. We were selling out tickets. Well, not selling out. We were selling tickets to people who they're like, I just saw you play 2 weeks ago. Like I'm going to pass. It's not worth $10 to go see Jimmy and the Flying J's, you know, like, sorry guys. Thanks anyway. So you start a new band and like that becomes the same expectation, but all you're doing is changing how you're writing the music and who's involved. It didn't really seem like a fitting formula. So we kind of wound up turning into a studio project, just over time molding into a studio project. However, for a couple of years, since 2015 or so, I've been streaming on twitch.tv to try and like get some kind of performance aspect into the scene from us. Like, hey, we're not just a studio band. We'll also play in front of cameras. Like you guys are going to come hang out, ask us questions, talk, make a request, whatever. But even then it wasn't really strong attendance, and it was hard for us to coordinate an entire band in front of the camera at a time, much less the technical stuff of like miking everything and making sure levels were good. It just became a little bit of an undertaking. And so we just started making albums in the studio.
Gotcha. So with all of that said, what are your goals for the band, or have you already hit them and you're living them out?
My goal is to quit tomorrow. I'm kidding.
There it is. See you later, man. You're out. I'm the only one left. Mark, you go first. What are your goals, bud?
You know, honestly, like we could talk about like, you know, really hard and fast concrete goals, and I mean, we definitely do have those. We have a couple things we want to release. We have the second part of Iota basically done that we want to release. But I think really like we just want to release music and connect with people. You know, we would certainly like to, you know, get a little bit more of an income for it. We've all kind of talked about, you know, turning it into like a little bit more of like a business on paper and things like that. And Nico basically being like CEO of it, because he's the brain. And yeah, I mean, that would be really cool. But the thing about it is, it's so weird because like with certain parts of your life, you really have to be very intentional about what you do. Like with your career, you have to make very smart choices and you know, do the right things all the time. But there are other aspects of life where it just is much more freeing and fulfilling to let go and to say like, I'm not letting go of my care for what I'm doing. I'm not letting go of my dedication, but like, I'm going to stop strangling it. And I think when I stopped doing that with Kardashev, I just was a lot more mentally stable. Now with Kardavox Academy, that's not how I feel, but
Definitely not.
but yeah, it just brought the music back into the whole experience. And so, the goal is to keep working hard, keep releasing music, and keep connecting with people, and then follow the opportunities if we are lucky enough for them to come our way.
Yeah,
That's my personal answer. Okay, it's his too. Good.
Yeah, no, I agree with the whole thing. The only thing I would add is that, you know, it'd be pretty cool to continue making releases that are like low stress, low overhead.
Yeah.
You know, we don't work for anyone but ourselves when it comes to this project. We don't have a record label or a management team or anything like that. Like Mark said, you know, I run all of the back end, and he and I create music along with Alex and Sean. And we're trying not to pressure anyone or meet deadlines or anything. It's like when you feel the time is right, work on it, you know, contribute your creativity and your passion towards it.
Now, this question is just for Mark. Is being a vocal coach your full-time job?
Soon, my friend. Soon. Yeah. So that's that's where it's very intentional and very calculated. I am working as hard as I possibly can to make it my full-time job. I really want it to be, you know, cause like, man, it is hard. It is hard in today's world. It's been hard for humans since we like crawled out of the mud, but it is hard to like do simple things like I would like to have a yard someday. You know, I would like to not drive the Prius with the broken trunk.
The trunk that won't even lock.
Y'all, anytime I go over a speed bump, it's like boom, boom, boom. And you know, I currently work for a company that's actually really legit. Like my full-time job, my day job. It's a great company. I mean, it's a big corporate job, so there's some of that goes on. But I just kind of realized that I could either take the risk of working really, really, really hard and never being noticed, or working really, really hard, and at least if nothing works out, I know that I was in control. It was something that I did. I had autonomy over the situation. So there's not necessarily with Kardavox Academy more risk, more chance of success. It's just like, at least I can make the decisions. At least I can make that choice. And it's interesting because that also makes my life like 90% more stressful, but I still prefer it to like going to work and being like, I did a really great thing today. Is anybody going to notice? Well, I don't know. Cool. So I'm hoping by the end of this year, I can make it my full-time job, but I'm holding back a little bit from making that jump because with like the current COVID situation, which may or may not go, like, who knows? I don't know if people are going to be like, yeah, I got money for vocal lessons. Sure.
Yeah.
Although the trend is currently that it's actually people are bored and they want to do stuff, but yeah, hopefully soon.
Yeah. Now, me and Chris are big fans of Kardavox Academy because we think what you're doing is really unique.
Hell
And
yeah,
obviously
thanks,
that's probably why you're being very successful so far. And so we have kind of an interesting thing to ask you is, can you break down some of the vocal techniques you are using on this newest EP?
Sure. Yeah, I can.
It's an awesome question.
That is a great question. You know, we've done a couple of these and nobody's asked that. And
Yeah.
this is a really cool question. So with the Bearing of Shadows, I did a lot of different stuff. And that's just because as the music has changed, there's been more room to play around. Now, I don't know if like things are going to blow out, so I might like pull back on some things. But the first was just clean singing. I'm not, all right, moment of truth here, y'all. I'm not the biggest fan of the like raspy, gritty singing that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Even bands that don't sound anything like Metallica, which is weird because I think Metallica is pretty well, Metallica used to be pretty good. But even that, when I hear bands are like, yeah, oh yeah, I'm just like, I can't hear anything else, right? Even if the music sounds nothing like Metallica, I'm just like, James, is that you? And so I'm not really a big fan of like raspy singing in our music. So for me, it's basically just like the singing I do in The Bearing of Shadows is basically just very straightforward, fundamental stuff. You know, holding my inhaled posture, keeping those ribs out, engaging the diaphragm, frontal resonance. Ooh, yeah. That's about it. And then being really, really pissed because everything's just right at the top of my range. You know, sometimes people are like, oh, how do you have such like a high voice? And I'm like, listen, that ain't my comfort zone. My comfort zone is like right here like that. That's where I'm comfortable. And then like in like a lot of the takes that you heard in The Bearing of Shadows, I really had to warm up into. Like I really had to warm up into because it's like right at the tip top. So yeah, the singing, it's really just fundamentals. I really didn't do anything like cool or like, you know, some tip or trick or anything. And then with the screaming is where things got a lot more varied. So the Bearing of Shadows screaming was, I didn't do as much of like my typical vocals. Like, you know, I've got my typical low where I'm like, you know, that sort of thing, which boy, doesn't that sound different when it's not like, you know, there's like a layer of 3 and it's in a mix, right? It's just like, and you're like, oh, it's not as loud as I thought, and it's a little thinner than I thought. But or like my highs, which are gonna blow things out, so I won't do that. But yeah, so I did a lot less of that, and the reason was because I wanted to focus on the pain element. So what I did is, and I'm gonna do just like the quiet bass line. But what I did is I basically used a high resonance with forward placement and basically a neutral soft palette, so I could make yeah that sound. Yeah, see how that's like kind of uncontrolled and sort of like almost yodely. Yeah, and then if you slowly lean into the distortion, which it's going to be a little bit higher than a false chord, which is kind of down there. We're moving up into the arytenoids. We're starting to get into fry territory. You slowly lean into the distortion. Yay! Yay! Growing still! Growing cold! That sort of sound. It's hard to do it quiet. But
I've been asking him to do it quiet for years. I'm like, yeah, please, we're in an apartment.
Because like with that, to like really get the placement, to like really get it high, you have to have a big open resonance, and you have to have your abdominals engaged, or else it's gonna sit a little bit low, like it did for me just then. So, but like when I do it normally, it's like just nuts loud. And then it was just various levels of that. And then the only other thing I did was at the very end of the EP, in Heartache, I was just basically doing like what you could consider a yell. But I was really focused on making sure that I had as much relaxation in the throat as possible. So like when I do all my vocals, my neck is very, very soft. Like you see the vocalists in pictures and stuff and their neck's like doing this thing. But like when I do like a low, you can kind of see in my neck. And if this is a podcast, the listeners won't see it. So there it is. But like when I do a low, you can see that my neck, see how it's like doughy right now? You can kind of see that if I do a low. it's the same thing. So I was keeping that same level of relaxation with forward resonance while pushing it forward, and I felt fine. So that there was a lot to talk about because I did a lot of different things, but that's like the base level rundown of what I was doing.
Yeah, it's not too often that a vocalist is asked, "Hey, man, show us your pedal board." So that's essentially what you did, bro.
yeah, that's essentially right. I kind of feel bad that I couldn't do it like full bore, but you got podcast listeners, and I just don't know what you're gonna edit the audio with, and I don't know.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want on this.
Yeah, also, just drown it in reverb.
Yeah, you can scream on here if you want. I don't care.
Well, let me show you that. Let me show you the distorted yell properly, because that example I did wasn't that great. So with
the mic down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn my mic down a little bit.
It's so loud, guys. You have no idea.
So basically, what I'm doing is I'm doing a very controlled, a very, very, very controlled belt. Essentially, it's very similar to belting. I'm sort of getting up into the mixed voice, close. But Nico's like moving his headphones. But EI growing still, growing cold. See, that sounds a lot better than what I did earlier.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
and here's the thing. It's not any more effort. It's really not. It's just that I'm relaxed. I'm opening the oral cavity and I'm engaging the stomach muscles. So that way I'm focused more on resonating than I am on just like being louder, so to say. But anyways, I could go on about that for like another 2 hours, and I'm gonna let us move on.
Yeah, I kind of forgot that I wasn't watching Kardavox Academy there for a minute.
Yeah.
Welcome to my life. Every time he's over here, he's like, "Well, see, I want to change my voice in a certain way. Let me see if my hyoid bone can be." And I'm like, "Dude, whatever. Just do it, man."
Actually, no, I gotta jump in, and I gotta say, Nico is almost in a way, like my vocal coach. Not because like you're like a pro vocalist, although when he pulls out some lows, they're not bad at all. They're pretty good. But just because he has learned to hear my voice very properly, and he's like, that sounded too throaty, or the distortion was a little weak there. And so a lot of the takes that you hear when people are like, damn, that's really, really good, which first of all, I'm very appreciative of. It's because Nico was basically being like, you didn't do this right. And sometimes I'm like, yes, I did. And then we listen back and I'm like, sure enough.
I think my favorite phrase for him is like, you can do it better. just because I'm like, there's something that's a little off. You try one more time.
Yeah.
So it's always curated takes that you're obviously, produced into the music.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. So I think we've reached the point in the interview where we can just transition into, if there's anything you guys want to plug or say or ask us, shoot.
I got something I want to ask you guys.
Yeah, he does.
All right.
No, this is different.
Okay.
The world is crazy right now. How y'all doing? How are you doing? Because it's a wild world right now. So there's that. How you doing,
Chris?
We're doing okay. I mean, we've been doing this quite a bit more, which is good. Yeah. We're in a similar situation where Connor and I both have careers that we're sacrificing bit by bit in order to have a YouTube channel. But it's been good for the soul in a way. And other than that, I mean, things could be better. I'd like to walk down a city sidewalk again, but what about you, Connor? How you feeling?
I'm good, man. I mean, getting a little stir crazy at home. I think, up until recently, we're in Tennessee. Things are finally opening up, but it's been a couple months and also I had an office job. Now I'm working from home, which was weird, but I actually liked it. But getting a little stir crazy and finally ready to go out. I had some vacations planned that all got pushed for another couple months, and but honestly, it's been pretty great because we've had a lot of free time and we've been really putting a lot of time into this YouTube channel, and it's been pretty fun.
For sure. What part of Tennessee are you in?
Nashville.
Well, you don't have
Nashville,
to.
Basically.
Nashville. Oh, okay, I was about to be like, don't dox yourself.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Nashville is an approximation.
Yeah, I've got some family that lives in an approximation of Nashville, and then our the guy who does our mixing and mastering, he's from Tennessee, but he's from a different. Which city is he from, Nico?
He's in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Knoxville, yeah. So
I was out there at the end of February. beginning of February. I got to go out there and kind of experience what Tennessee was like. I've never been there before, and we've been working with this guy for like 8 years. So it was cool to finally get up with him and say, hey, look, I'm going to fly out there this time. Like we're going to produce this record together in your home. I'm going to get to hear what your subwoofer's producing that mine doesn't, and what your monitors are like when you're making these mixed decisions and deciding how, you know, high or low Mark sits in the mix there. So I think that turned out for the better. You know, we've had records in the past that came out of the same exact place that were not at this level of detail, of fidelity. And I think that was a result of our collaboration. It was pretty cool.
That's something we can plug. SoundLayer.
Oh yeah. Soundlayer.com. Go check out Maya. Super cool dude. Very knowledgeable. I kind of took this, like a mentorship for the last 8 years, just, you know, talking with him ever so often. Hey, when you're recording a vocalist, what kind of preamps are you using? Should I get a condenser microphone? Should I finally invest into one 6 years into our career here doing this? And he's like, yeah, you're dumb if you haven't since then. So here it is in front of me. The same one Mark uses. You can see all of his spit right there. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I got a question for you guys. What inspired you to create your YouTube channel? Because, you know, I wouldn't say that I peruse album review channels very often, but Mark's been getting into the reaction stuff, obviously, very well lately. And so that's kind of opened my mind that there are channels out there that are just doing like reactions of people reacting to reactions from like 10 years ago. Like I was watching one the other day. It was like original footage of Lord of the Rings in 2001 when this character dies. And I'm like, this exists? And then there's a person who's like, now you're going to watch me react to the audio. And I'm like, holy crap, how far does this rabbit hole go? So I'm curious, how'd you guys get started?
Well, I think it really started because Connor and I were roommates in college, and I, not to take too much credit, but I think he would agree that I'm responsible for him liking metal music at all.
Hey.
There you go.
We were in a Walmart at midnight, and I was singing Duality out loud. And he had heard it before because of Guitar Hero, like so many people.
Before I forget.
And I brought him back to the apartment and immediately just started showing him stuff. and he realized that there was a whole genre of music that he loved and had not experienced.
Yeah.
So from that point on, virtually every metal concert that we went to together. And a lot of our relationship was built around metal music. And then Connor realized one day that we really should have started a YouTube channel or a podcast or something when we were freshmen, but we didn't. And I'll let you take it from here, Connor.
Yeah. So about the end of senior year, we really started talking about, you know, dude, you know, we're funny guys. We have a good time together. We love metal. We should start, you know, recording ourselves talking. And then a year later, when we both have full-time jobs and we're out of college and we have way less free time, we're like, okay, now we're starting this. And I mean, we started recording ourselves just kind of talking about metal and realized, oh, wait, nobody knows who we are. Why the hell would they want to listen to us talk about metal? So that kind of opened the door to us. Honestly, everything we've been doing on this channel has been, we kind of stumbled into it. So Chris started doing album reviews. I started jumping on those too. From just having an Instagram account and posting memes, we started getting people telling us to check out their music. And then we're like, maybe they'd want to talk to us. Then we started doing interviews. Now this is like our 10th interview within like 2 months or something.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
I think that the big turning point was we got an interview with the bassist of Dillinger Escape Plan. Yeah. And when that happened, we were like, maybe if we just started asking people if they'll talk to us, then we can go somewhere. Yeah. So that's more or less how it happens. And and here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are the first people to like pull a full Uno reverse card and make this about us.
Well, hey, we're equally interested, man. I mean, we're just a bunch of dudes in the world. You know, you'll see us at Walmart and drinking at the local brewery over here, whatever it is. You know, one thing that's helped us get to a lot of places, and you've already discovered it for yourself with the bass player of Dillinger, is that the people in the world, they're just people. What's it going to hurt to ask, hey, would you mind being on this album? Or can I sit in on your recording session? Or worst case scenario, they just say, get out and I'll never text you again. It's like, cool, I'll move on, you know?
Yeah.
So it's cool that you don't have that sort of like, oh God, they're a superstar. What if they say no? Well, what if they say no? You got a list of 1 million superstars. Go to the next one. You know what I mean? And we're nowhere near stars. I'm not saying that's us. I'm just saying, like, go for the stars, dude. Go for the big ones and trickle down.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks. Yeah.
dude, it's super cool.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
If they say no, it's like, well, they weren't talking to you anyway, so
Yeah.
you didn't lose anything.
Mark has a great point. That's how we got the vocalist for Aegean on our Peripety album. We were inspired 8 years ago by Aegean and Fallujah and the Contortionist. You know, these are the bands that we were looking to and being like, how did they pull that off, or how did they make it sound that good? And so, 3-4 years into us doing this, I was like, you know what? I'm going to send him an email. Like, hey man, would you like to be on our album? Here's a pre-pro. And the dude replied and he's like, yo, this is pretty cool. That'd be awesome. But I don't have a studio. And so I looked over at Mark and our bassist, Chris, and I was like, do you guys want to just buy his ticket and record him here like we do Mark? And they're like, oh shit, that'd be tight. So we just offered, can we buy you a ticket? You can crash on our couch. And he was like, yep, I'll be there. Let's do it.
Funny story. First time in an airplane in his life.
First time you've ever been on an airplane.
Yeah. And that was wild too, because like I started metal vocals because I wanted to sound like that guy from Reshaping the Multiverse. I was like, that's what I want to sound like.
Your lows particularly. Yeah.
My lows particularly. And then fast forward and we do them differently, but whatever. And then, you know, all of a sudden we're like having beers on the back porch after a day of recording. And I remember just being like, I don't know what this means, but it's something good.
It's so cool. It's the best. So, you know, good luck to you guys in the future. Get as many big names as you can. And if they don't want to hang out, then it's their loss.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
I feel that you guys should also know, I didn't mean to cut you off, sorry. But I feel
should.
you guys should also know, you are the first people to hear that we are from Nashville and not get super defensive about country music.
Oh, really?
I think that virtually everyone who's heard we're from Nashville immediately goes, oh yeah, we like country music. We're definitely okay with that.
Well, maybe it has something to do with that because we're in Arizona. We're all supposedly gun-toting, cowboy hat wearing, boot wearing, you know, frontiersmen. Apparently, if you ask the right people. When we were in England, Mark, do you remember that guy in McDonald's?
Yeah.
This dude, so our sleep schedule was ruined, right? Because we're on American time and then we have to smush our sleep schedule 8 hours forward somehow magically, which is impossible, by the way. But we get there and we're at like 1 a.m. and we're like, it's time for lunch. We're so hungry. So we like stupor into this McDonald's, and immediately when you order, they're like, oh, you're not from around here. And we told him we're from Arizona. And the dude literally said, he's like, oh, that's pretty cool. Do you guys have horses? And we're like,
yeah,
no, dude, I live in an apartment. I have air conditioning. Thank goodness. You know what I mean?
Dude, and then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, what?
And then Nico asks for ranch dressing, I think it was. And the guy's like, ranch dressing? What do you think this is? One of your cowboy movies? Little does he know, a bunch of the cowboy movies were actually made in Italy.
Spaghetti westerns.
Spaghetti westerns. Yeah, but dude, that was a crazy time.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just feel like if I went over there, I'd hear everybody say, "Death row,
death row."
You pick up a candy bar, death row. You throw the wrapper on the ground, death row. And we were both just like, dude, you're an absolute legend.
Yeah, he is. And he's like, I've always wanted to go to America. And I looked at him and I said, go for it. And he goes, go for it? Who says that? Who says go for it? I know, I do a horrible English accent, but that's what he said. He was like freaking out behind the counter. And we're like, all right, man. Well, anyways, follow your dreams. See you later. Whatever.
That's so weird that you're like, we're from Nashville. And everybody's like, I just want you to know, I respect country music.
And we're like, that's okay. We don't.
Yeah.
It's like you metalheads.
Dude, Nico, that'd be like if we told somebody we were from Arizona and they were like, listen, I just want you to know I really respect salsa and I really respect like grilled corn. And we're just like, okay.
Also those little suckers that have scorpions in them. Those I back that. I support that. I have a Patreon for that specifically.
I'm gonna be real. I like those. I do.
Oh, dude, you're whatever.
Are you talking about? Explain what you're talking about. What is this Arizona?
So they actually have these all over the country. But it's like a little lollipop with a scorpion inside.
Like
You
a
know
real
what
one.
Yeah.
and you like eat the lollipop and you
eat the
eat the
scorpion.
bug.
Yeah.
Maybe it's weird. Okay, so I'm gonna tell. Here's something about Mark that nobody else has ever known in any of these. So this is something that's only going to be on your channel.
we
I
go.
love eating insects. Love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have a
do.
story.
So
I have a story.
I got this guy. I think I know what your story is, and you should definitely tell it. But I got this guy. He's a friend of ours, and he for work he travels all the time. And every time he comes back from another country, because a good portion of the world eats insects as a source of protein, and insects actually have a large amount of protein compared to like a steak or something like that. So he'll bring me back like seasoned crickets, grasshoppers. I really want to try water bugs, like the big water bugs. I think that'd be pretty good. Yeah, I'll eat anything. I love it. I love eating. I used to have this seasoning that was just basically like spices and ground up crickets, and there was some caterpillar in there. And it was delightful. Put it on tacos. Delicious.
Wow.
That's extremely metal. Very metal.
And extremely nutritious.
Yeah. So funny story. Mark actually bought a prop for our Dungeons and Dragons campaign that he was running for a year, where he was a character. He was a goblin who would eat bugs because that was his form of sustenance. So as he's playing that character, he has a jar of bugs with him, and he's eating them, playing that character.
Yeah.
Unreal. Amazing.
That is some real
It's
commitment to the cosplay there.
Yeah,
It
just
was
be like,
so good.
do you want some cabugla?
And he'd be like, we're all
Yeah.
like, dude, what the hell? That's crazy.
What are we even talking about anymore?
I don't know. We're just telling fun stories, yeah.
Good God. Anyway,
Man.
I do have a plug. I do have one other plug.
All right.
Never Breath. We released a black metal album just for fun. That's like literally, it's not anything near as serious. Kardashev, in fact,
No.
some parts of that album are very aware of themselves, I will say. Like I think I do more black metal coughs, like, the typical I think I do that more times in that album than was ever necessary. But yeah, if anybody wants to check out Never Breath, it's weird, but it was fun.
All right.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Sweet.
There it is.
Well, guys, it has been really, really awesome talking to you. We are really appreciative of you guys coming out and talking with us. And Chris, do you have anything else?
Just thank you so much. That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. It was nice to meet you, Connor and Chris. Thank you.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you all very much. Maybe lock the doors and turn them lights.
And that's my cue.
All right. We'll see you guys later.
See you guys.
That's it. Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks.
All right.